It's funny because I've never really paid any attention to them, and I've kind of retroed that and gone back and love some of the really old belts, but I just Jerry Lawler and Dutch Mantell feud over a Southern heavyweight belt, and one Saturday morning that belt caught my eye. And I mean, the belt wasn't even exactly brand new at the time, but something about it just caught my eye, and that just, I was like, you know what, I need to make one of those. And so then I started, then here we go, you know, I'm looking around for whatever I can, you know, living out in the sticks, you don't have any money, you know, so you're just, and not that you're just a kid, you know, 12 years old, 13, whatever it is, I don't know. So that, you just start making them out of whatever you can find. And my uncle says, there's a better way, man. We can do better than this. And he says, draw me a template on cardboard and come to work with me. And what my uncle would do is he'd wait till the boss was always there in the mornings, and by lunchtime he was gone. So I would just hang out. I would work with my uncle. I'd help out, do a little bit around here, you know, whatever. And then when the boss was gone, he's like, okay, get this sheet of steel out, draw my template out on it with some soapstone, cut it out with a torch, sand it off, polish it up. Boom, I had me a wrestling belt. Like before then, what happened was I discovered the world of what around here we call outlaw wrestling, what probably most of the rest of the country calls independent wrestling. These guys loved the stuff I was doing, you know, because some of them had no belts, and some of them had even worse belts than I had. And I could kind of, by this time, I mean, you know, I'd gotten to a point where I could kind of, with the stuff I was working with, I could replicate a Memphis-looking belt. And so he would say, well, Jerry, you know, and Jerry would like this, or Jerry would, and he kind of introduced me to Jerry Lawler, and that's how that all really got started. And I mean, to me, the first work I did that ever got any attention was the work that I did for Jerry Lawler. I read his number, I called him. I probably talked to him 2 or 3 times about the belt I wanted to order, and I sent him the check, and we were talking, and I said, you know, I would be embarrassed to show you, but I do this too. I make my own belts, and I sell them locally and that kind of thing. And he said, well, I'd like to see them. And I said, you know, and I think I've always said that he was probably just being nice, but that's Reggie, and he's just one of the nicest men. You know, one of the nicest, most humble guys you could ever meet. And he said, I want to see them. He said, mail me some pictures. He sent me some pictures of what you've done. So I did, and talked to him the next week, and I wasn't even going to bring it up. And he said, I got your pictures, man. That's a lot of potential. You do good work for what you're working with. He says, why don't you do this like I do it? He said, I'm not going to be around forever. And he said, there needs to be somebody that's honest and it's nice to people who's going to keep doing this, and it's going to do it the right way. And that was that as far as getting started with Reggie Parks. He told me early on, he said, now, I like the pictures of your work that I've seen, but I'm going to send you, you know, we're going to hook you up, you get some orders, you get the business in, and then I'm gonna get you some plates to get started. And he said, I want to see your painting, I want to see your leather work, I want to see detailed pictures of this stuff. And he said, if I don't like what I see, then maybe you just go back to doing it the way you were doing it. They wanted to blow you out of the water. So I mean, even though I've been in the business for many years, I think probably those started getting people saying, wow, this guy is doing more than just, you know, he's doing more than just an old you know, Texas heavyweight title or a Southern belt from Memphis or something. This guy's, and he getting really elaborate with the stuff. But that's because, you know, they wanted these very impressive, expensive belts, and I've been around for so long that I made belts for companies all over the place. But I mean, as far as really starting to feel like we were getting attention and that it wasn't all necessarily pointed at Reggie, that was probably some of the early stuff. And a lot of people, I get this a lot. Oh, it's so great, you get to do something you love and you get to work for yourself, and it is. I mean, that's a blessing. That's something that's a fortunate thing. But you know, sometimes I long for a job where I get off at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock and I'm done. I don't get off work. I mean, if it's on a weekend, even if I'm not working on belts, then there's, you know, emails, phone calls, which, I mean, poor pitiful me. I mean, it's not that bad, I guess, but there's not really time off. If I'm on an anniversary trip with my wife, well, she's just come to accept that there's a certain part of the day where I've got to do emails and stuff. You can't take thousands of dollars from people and not update them if they ask you a question. They start panicking. Even with my reputation, it's like, okay, this guy's not getting back with me. I kind of brought it to my late partner Ed Schumann and said, if you'll make me another belt for it, then you know, you can have it. And Ed didn't really know what it was exactly. He just knew it was an old Reggie belt, and he knew it had some kind of history to it. And he sent me the picture and said, "Do you recognize this? You know, is this one of Vern's real belts?" And I said, "Yeah, it's one of Vern's real belts." And I said, "Actually, even though it says light heavyweight, it was really primarily used for a women's title. And you know, Sherry Martel, Wendy Richter, Medusa, you know, all held this belt. And by the time that I see it, it's been sprayed. The leather has been spray painted black." And I remembered that in the 80s, even passing through Memphis once, Jimmy Backlund, Jimmy Del Rey had the belt, same belt. I recognized it and the leather had been painted like baby blue. So this got all this coats of paint on the leather. And when I get the thing, and I figure, well, there's not really much I can do to destroy it. The history's, you know, kind of faded on it anyway, because nobody even recognizes it anymore. Because it had originally had this beautiful red, white, and blue Reggie strap on it. And the Reggie strap was still intact, but it was just painted over so many times and just very crudely painted over. And I thought, well, I got nothing to lose, so I took it apart, preserved all the original parts. I mean, the backing leather, all the stuff, everything I could save, I saved it. And I bought a vat, and I put some paint remover in the vat, and I took a soft brush and I just started kind of brushing away the layers of this paint. But that is actually another reason behind, you know, some of the WWE leading the way. They don't want to just have one belt. God forbid something happens to it, and that's the only one you got. Especially if it's one of your main titles. You know, what do you do?
Oh yeah.
So that's the goal, and so that's why generally, you know, the talent probably has one that they're carrying, but then there's also the prop guys handle them and keep up with them to prevent the old days. If you had one belt, it was gone. It was gone. And the deal is Rick said the belt was his personal property, and they really, you know, it was questionable and proven otherwise. He said it was that particular belt was a gift from Jim Crockett, and he'd never gotten his deposit back on being NWA champion, and the belt was his. But they finally, and I actually forget the deal, but I know that WCW ended up getting it back, and I think they reached some sort of settlement on it. And Rick said if he was paid X amount of dollars, he'd just send it back, and that's how that happened. But you know, Rick himself told the stories. That's the only reason I know it. But Rick said that when he called and asked about coming to work for Vince, and one of the things he told him, because it was that big of a deal back then, instead of just a random prop. I mean, it was that big a deal. He said, "I got the belt," and Vince said, "Oh, you do? I think it'd be better if we do it this way." And I get very few concessions that way. They're pretty set in how they want things done, but they retain the rights to that art. So the process really, like with a company like, with WWE in particular, they own the art. They create the art. We might have to you know, do a little something with the engineering or to modify it to make it work with our process. But they own the art, and they retain the rights to it. And it's strictly business, so that replica sales revenue goes to them. All kinds of merchandise, whether it's on a t-shirt or whether it's on an action figure, whatever, it goes to them. You guys have seen out in the shop, there's a whole bunch more than this, but I just grabbed a couple things to bring back here to the office. Gigantic monster here is an ISKA super welterweight kickboxing belt, and we got going on here. Not giving away a new design. It's the same designs on TV every week, but this is just another of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship belts. Just finished that, and that's going to be going out this week. So, you know, this is one that actually a lot of the what we call the belt marks will recognize this. This is the mid '80s World Championship Wrestling TBS TV belt. It was worn by Ronnie Garvin and Bob Roop and Jake Robert. Over here, and this was actually a much newer, nicer looking belt, national tag team title belt, and then a little something happened to it called the Road Warriors. And there's actually two of them. There's 82 and 1982, 1983. These are Jad Katkeson. This is Fritz von Erich, of course. These are his day planners that have the I probably can't get that tight on it, but I mean, you got every town. You got how much the house drew, and you got the talent that was booked on it. And if his boys weren't booked on it, you've got where they were booked at notated at the bottom, so that he could keep up with where his boys were at, you know, were booked on any given day.